Hello and welcome back to Concept First to Mastery. So in this section, we'll be looking at HTML elements, inline and block. HTML elements, inline and block, and we'll dive right in. So what we're doing first is we just try to start working on the task one. So while working on that, we'll be able to see different HTML elements, inline and block, and whatever concepts that I need to explain, I will do that. All right, so this is what we'll be working on very quickly, right? So we have about me section, we have the skills section, we have the projects section, then we have the contacts or space section. So why this task is kind of very simple, right? It's going to afford you the opportunity of getting to work with different HTML elements, right? Not just working with them, knowing how to structure things very well, right? So that you can actually style properly when it comes to styling. And also it allows you to see the different functions of this HTML. So I'm going to actually group them by their functions as we go along, right? So let's dive right in. What we'll do is just to first have that folder, right, that represents the task. Let's have the folder that represents the task first. So what we'll just do is inside the HTML basics, right? So I'll just modify this. So I can delete this one. That's the last index file that we created. I'll delete that. So here I want to have a folder, right? And that will just be task one. So let's just say task_1. So that will represent the first task. And of course, I already explained this. I'll just drag this and bring this into my VS Code, drop it here, so that can be opened, right? So that's faster than going through the VS Code directly, open the files and all that, the folders and the file. Like I explained, you can do that through here, open folder, right? So in here, the first thing we need here is to actually have the index.html page, which already explained that as the root file. I already mentioned that it's the root file, right? That the browser will be looking out to pick, right, in order to display the home page, right, of whatever project you are working on. So here we've talked about HTML5 already and how to describe that for the browser to understand. So if you miss out on that, you can check. I will drop the link to that particular video, right, in the description. Also, you can click on the pop-up card, right, that's just above here. So what we'll do first here is to have that HTML doc type described, and that's it. If you already installed Mx, right, again, if all I'm saying is not clear to you, you have to check the previous videos, right? I'll leave the link again in the description. So I expect that if you are walking through, you should have Emit installed. And because of that, you have some auto completions for you, right? So this is saying that we want the document to be HTML5, right? What we now want is the root HTML, right? Don't forget we spoke about the root HTML when we talked about introduction to HTML5. So we have the HTML as a root element, right? And every element must have opening tag and the closing tag, and the content goes in there. The content can be text, can be other HTMLs, right? So it happens that this is the root element. Now we'll start learning about HTML elements, right? This is the root element, and this is the closing tag for that. So this HTML must wrap every other element. Whenever you are writing the HTML document, right, it must wrap every other element. That's why it's the root element. So directly in the HTML, we have the head section, right? Again, we dive deep into this in the previous section we had. So we have the body section, the head section, and the body section. So we already explained what goes into the head, right? The metadata, extra information for the browser. We already explained what goes to the body, right? And that has to do with elements that display the content that you want the user to interact with and see, right? So in the head section, we just want the some meta descriptions, So we have this meta. Don't forget, I already also explained what this meta is used for, right? Okay, let me leave that out and start with the basic ones. So we want the title first. Every document must have a title. Must have a title. So the title to this one is I just say let's say HTML elements, right? And okay, HTML elements. So just say inline and block. So let's say that's the title, right? Other things you might need here that we don't need now, right? Usually you will have link. So usually this allows you to link to an external style sheet, right? But for that to work, we've talked about attributes too, right? In the last section, attributes. So this is where you tell that this is the relationship between these documents and the document you are pointing to, you are linking to, right? So here we are going to say is style sheet, right? And once we have that, then we can now say the SRC, which is the attribute that allows to point to the location of the external style sheet, right? We are not talking CSS yet, so all that will do. So I will leave this blank now, nothing. Then we normally you have scripts, and again, too, we are not doing anything with scripts yet, but just so that we have an idea of what's going on. So here we also have SRC, right? Source that points to where the script lives. We'll leave that now since we are not pointing to any script, right? Then we also have aside that, okay, we also have our style, right? We need to have internal style in this case so that we can have some styles that ensures that the page look like we have it now. Normally when you write HTML, there is no style, right? So it is only when you apply styles to it that you start seeing things being structured this way. So we have style. Whatever style we have eventually will come in here. Then let's just have some meta tags. So let's say meta. So this is where you have opportunity of giving extra information that has not been captured by uh, the elements we have already in the head, right? So we can just say meta, let's say chart set first. I've already explained what chart set is. Again, if you don't know what chart set is, you have to check the previous video, which is already linked in the description. So UTF-8, right? Again, gain understanding. Don't just, if you don't understand what UTF-8 is, don't just brush it over. That's the sole purpose of doing this. You want to capture everything and what they actually mean. So another meta, we have, let's say name here, and the name here is just description. So this is for SEO now, right? Description. Then the content here is, let's just use this also. So this allows search engines to actually index our page and also give it a description. Then maybe lastly, let's just add author, right? So that's still going to be name attributes, right? But the value here is going to be author, right? And the content is just going to be, let's just say this, right? So that's what we need for the edge section. And don't forget the edge section is just to provide extra information for the browser to work with. So often it will uh it will influence the behavior of the appearance and the behavior of the document, right? In terms of responsive design and all that. So let's just check this first that everything is in line. So like I've said already, you can right click on index.html and you will see open with live server. If you don't know how we have live server here, again, watch the previous video, you get to see that. But if you also want to do this without watching that, just click on extensions, search for live server, install it, right? And you'll be able to do this. So once I open this, I should be able to see, so you can see now, we have that listening on 5500. No content to see, but we can already see the title of the page, HTML elements inline, and block, right? So let's now start working on the body section. So the body section is where we now begin to have this is where we'll begin to have the content, right, of this particular document, the content of this particular document. So, I've already shown you some elements now. You can see the head element, and I want to believe you know what the head element is used for now, right? It's actually used to, it's part of the metadata, right, that we use to actually give extra information to the browser so that it can actually display and influence the display and the appearance of the document in terms of responsive design, linking to other resources and all that, right? So you can see some of the elements that goes into the S section, the meta and the chart set. They are different attributes. I've already explained this in detail, right? The title also, you already know what it does, right? You can see the influence here. You can see the title here, right? On that particular tab. Then we also have the style. This is where the style goes into. All this goes into the S section. And again, it's not going to show, right? Because that is not meant for the content. It's not the document content. It's just meant for the browser, right, to work with. So again, in order to, don't forget, this is all about concept first before building, but I just want this to be hands-on. That's why I'm taking this approach. So as you are doing this, also try to understand every bit of what is going on. So in order to do that, what I will just say is, I will show you this resource so that you can also go through it, right, at layer. It kind of help you see an overview of what the elements are and how they work. So they are actually categorized according to their functions, right? That also assists you to kind of attach meaning to what is going on. So you can see HTML element reference, right? So, and you will see that we have almost all HTML here, but they are grouped according to their functions, right? So we have the main root. The main root is the HTML, and that's what we are using here. This is the main root. So don't forget, this one is what tells that we are writing HTML5. So this is the main root, and this is the head, right? Okay, let me just say this is the main root, and I want to believe that is clear, right? So the other thing you notice here is the document metadata, and that refers to what we have here. Everything in the S section, that's the metadata, because it's meant to give extra information for the browser to work with. And we have different elements here. So you just need to be aware of the element, the style, the script, the link, the title, the meta, right? All of them are metadata, meta document meta in terms of what they do. And you can actually delve in and see what they do here. The base, the head, contains machine readable information about the document like title, script, and so I will not be reading this, but you can go through it, and I will say you should go through it if you really want to understand what's going on. So the links, I've already mentioned what links are used for, right? The meta, I've already explained this, the style and the title. So all these elements are referred to as documents, metadata. So you can only have one main root, which is the HTML, right? But all these elements fall under document metadata. Then we also have sectioning routes. So you can also have only one sectioning route, which is the body. So the sectioning route is actually used to display the document for users to see. And this is what we call a sectioning route, right? Which is the body. So take note of that. So sectioning route, the body. Then we also have content sectioning. So this has to do with where you now need to start. When you start working on the body, you're not just going to have contents littered everywhere on the screen, right? It's not going to make any sense. Just littered everything on the screen. So, but what you are going to now do is you are going to now start asking yourself what elements is appropriate, right, to wrap the contents that I intend to display. So if you intend to display a paragraph, so you should be able to say, okay, what content sectioning element, right, is appropriate to actually wrap a paragraph. Then you will remember that, oh, paragraph element is there, right? And other ones. So you just take your time and read through this. For instance, we have address, which is an element that indicates that the enclosed HTML provides contact information for a person, a people, organization. So when you need to use this, let's say I intend to, on the body section, let's say I intend to have address. Let's say I intend to have something like number 17, right? Lagos. Let's just say that's an address, right? So let's just say that's an address. It's while you can do this like this, right? You can put paragraph here, but it's not going to be appropriate, right? Since it's an address, it's just the appropriate thing is that you use the address element to wrap it. This does not mean that you can still not have some other elements in between, right? Maybe you want this to be in paragraph for for whatever reason, you can still have it this way, right? But everything is enclosed in the address element. So that's it about address, right? Then we also have article. So usually articles are used to represent self-contained compositions. For instance, a product card. So let me show you this. Let's go to react.dev. Yeah, react.dev. So I can just show you some of these things. In fact, the page I just left also showed that. So these are cards, right? For instance, these are cards, and these cards are reusable. So chances I know that this is going to be just one card designed and reused all the time right here. So this is just one card reused multiple times, as you will see. So the advantage with this is that when you want to represent this, you can use article element, right? If you understand that. So this is more like an article, this is more like an article, this is more like an article. It could also be a blog post, right? So you wrap it in an article. That's what this is saying. That's just to teach you the appropriate use of this element, which is very, very important, right? A forum post, a magazine, a product card, and all that. Then aside, usually represents a portion of document whose content is only indirectly related to the document. So usually use this an aside, as you will see. So this is meant to show you what is whatever is here is indirectly related to the main content, right? That is here. So aside is usually represented as in a sidebar, and that's what you have here, right? So you also have footer. So the footer section, almost every website has a footer section. You can see the footer section here, where you have a link to other pages. You have information about the who owns the contents and all that, right? So you just need to be aware about this, that okay, when you're working on the footer, you use the footer element to actually wrap things, right? So I think that's just enough on trying to walk you through the content section in Elements. You can look at the remaining content section. You have the header. So usually the header represents the introductory content. For instance, now, okay, let me show you that here before I go in there. In this particular place, you see that this is more like the header. This whole thing is the header. So the header here, we have the navigation, right? And we have this this lead, right? Which is more like introducing you to what this content is all about, right? And we have this call to action button. So all these parts now can be sectioned as the header, right? The header. So you can have other sections like this create user interface, and these cards could be grouped as a section too. So understanding this will allow you to be able to work with this another section here, right? This another section here. This another section here. While if I'm designing this, I'm going to use header elements to section this, right? Here, I'm going to use probably a generic section, which is actually section, right? This is what I mean. In here, if I want to introduce this document, I might have a header element, right? Like this. Have a header element. Inside this header element, we might have the nav element goes in there. So the nav is actually used for holding elements that link to other pages like navigation elements, right? So here I might have anchor, right, which is used to link to other pages, right? This is just an example. We are still going to work on navigation. So underneath here, I might have another div, right, that is meant to probably be hold the title, right? I might have h2 here, right, as the title of the page. Then I might also have something as description of the page, which might be a paragraph now, right? Just to mimic the what we have here, right? What we have here. You can see that we have this navigation section and we have this list section, which categorized section. Then under here, you also have the same thing going on, right? So when you see things like this, it becomes clearer. So all these are actually they're actually content section. And you can also have heading 1 to 6, right? We also have heading 1 to 6 actually represents 6 levels of section headings, right? And heading 1 is the highest level, right? While heading 6 is the lowest level. And usually the heading 1 is the biggest in terms of size, right? And down like that to heading 6. So then the main, I'm just mentioning the common ones here. We also have the main. Usually this is used to represent the main content. For instance, now if I were to look at this, so here will be the main section. Okay, let me use this. So here now is more like the main area where we have the content that really speak to the title of this document, right? Here is an aside, just like I've mentioned. Here is main. So it's okay to wrap every other nested element, right, in main. So if I want to do this now, I might say after the navigation or after the head section, right, I might have the main here, might have main here, just like this, right? Then every element that have to do with main will go in here. Then I might also have aside, right? I might also have aside here, right? And every element that have to do with aside will go in here, right? And all that. So as you are doing this, also you will be considering styling. But since we are not styling yet, it's okay to just go this way, right? So let's make, at least I've shown you some elements now and how to work with them, right? Let's move on with what we are doing. We still have some other section. We have some other elements, and you really need to take time to actually try to master this. We have text content, right? So all these elements are actually used to wrap actual text, and they give you different, they are used for different purposes, and you need to understand them. The D, for instance, so this is very common, and it's just a generic container for flow content. So it's just a generic container. It doesn't add any effect to the elements or to your content when you use it. Then we have definition list, we have definition term, and definition description. So we have all those things here. We have figure and all that. So we can't use all this in a project. But as you continue to work, if you really want to learn, right, you keep on saying, why am I using this element? Why am I using this element? And before you know it, after working on 2 or 3 projects, right, you already have a mastery of what this is all about, since you have the right approach to things, right? So let's just continue working on the project, and I will come back to some of the other ones that we have here, right? I think I will keep doing this because we can't cover all this, but I'll keep coming back to this and show you until probably we are done with HTML and you have a mastery of all these elements and how to actually use them in projects, right? So here, now that we have the document ready. So let's work on the about section, right? At the about me section. So for the about me section, what we just want to do is I'll clean up this. We're not even doing header here, right? We just want to stick with what the task is all about. Build a portfolio section. Build a portfolio, a simple portfolio that has about me, skill, projects, and contact page. So other ones we can work on them eventually. So here we just want to have let's say so here we just want to want to handle things by section, right? And I will use the generic section element, right? So here we just say section. So this is the generic section element. Don't forget I mentioned it, right? So it's just to why we have other sections, like I showed you the header section. The header is also used for sectioning. But the header here speaks to, in terms of semantic, right? It speaks to elements that introduces the content. So that's what we have here, like the navigations and all that. But here, this is just generic section where you are not saying it's introducing the content. It's just a section in the document. So it's generic. So that's when you use this. And that's what I want to use for the about me here. I also want to place a comment here. I already showed you how to write a comment. And you can also do that also. You have a comment, you just say about me. This is not just for you, also for whoever is going to be working on your code, right? It becomes clear on what you are doing and where things start and where things end. So end, we also have end of about me, right? Just like that. So in that particular element, what we are going to have is when you're working with sections, every section should have a title, right? And then whatever you want to, there, maybe descriptions and all that. So here let me just place a class attribute here. Don't forget we talked about attributes too. So class attribute is just a way of, we'll still talk about that, but it's just a way of saying we want to be able to style this, right, using this class, right? Class allows to style multiple things at the same time. So here we're just going to give this a class of about me, so that when we need to style that particular section, we can target this and actually style it appropriately, right? So in this about me section, we want the heading 2 section. So I'm using the heading 2 because this is heading 2 is the next in importance after heading 1, right? So about me is just like an heading, right? About me is an heading. So we want to really say, okay, it's a section, right, with an heading, and we want to really say, okay, let's have a title that talks about, or a heading now that talks about this about me. That's why I'm using heading 2 here, right? In another place, probably somewhere on the document where you're introducing the document, if we had something like this, let me just place that here. If you have something like the header, right, where we're introducing the document, so we could, in the document here, we could have somewhere where we have heading 1, right, which is the most in importance, and that will talk about the entire that's whatever is there, right, should be the most important thing on the page, whatever the document is all about. So this document is all about HTML elements, inline, and block, right? So we just have that here. Usually it's also advised that you have just one heading 1 on the page that represents the most important thing, because that this is going to be used by SEO, right, to actually index for indexing and capturing this document properly for others to see. So you want to be sure that, okay, there's only one heading 1, and what goes in there is what represents the most important thing, that speaks to the most important thing on this page, right? And right now that's about HTML elements and all that. So here we now have heading 2, which is about me. I had to say all this because most time when people are working, you just do these things without really knowing why you are doing it, right? About me. Then here we can now have a paragraph, right, that speaks to what should go into the about me section. So what I would just do is there's no need to actually do much here, since we are just learning. I'll just use lorem. I'll just say lorem 30, meaning generate me 30 random words. So we are going to have that. Again, if you don't know how I got that, you have to, if you have installed the Elemenst library, right? I already spoke about to install it in the last section. If you have installed it, you should be able to do that. That's it about me section, right? If you go on to inspect the page and see what is going on, see that there is nothing here. Can you see now? And it's not styled. So this is how you write HTML, but it's not going to be styled until you actually style things yourself. That's done through the CSS. But if you don't lay your bed very well, it will be tough when it comes to styling also. So that's why proper understanding of these things are is very important, right? So let's also move to the next section, which is the skills section, So I'll just come in and say skills, right? Let's just say end of skills, end of skills. So for the skills section, we still want to have the generic section element, which is the section, right? And we just say the class here should be let's just say skills, so that we can target that for styling. Then we also have we can also use heading 2 here, right? So since it's a section, right, heading 2, just like we have here too. So heading 2 here, and we are just going to say skills. And this is in line with what we have here, right? Because usually when you are working like this, you have something like a Figma design you are following, right? Something that designer gives you to work on. So you can see, I can say, okay, if I have this as a design, oh, this is section, about me section, this skill section, right? Each of them have title, and this is a product section. The product section has title and some other things, right? So that's what we are trying to follow. So here we have skills as a title. Then underneath the skills, we have, if you look at what we have here, this is not just description, this is a list of item, right? And the way you represent a list of item, when it comes to HTML is the use of ordered list on unordered list elements, right? So this is the first time I'm talking about ordered list and unordered elements. So for instance, when you want things to be ordered, you use the ordered list element, OL, right? So this ordered list is going to expect list elements as its children. So the ordered list is a wrapper for holding ordered list item. So each item will now go into a list. Let's say this is 1, right? Or let's say this is A, right? And let's say we have another item. So this is B. So each item will be in the list element, right? But you use this to wrap them. So if you go back and inspect the page, what you see is can you see now? 1, 2. This is ordered list. So what we want in our case is unordered list, because as you see here, this is not ordered. There is nothing like that here. Unordered list is what we want. So we'll just come here and say instead of ordered list, we want UL, which is represents unordered list, right? UL unordered list. And once you do that, you are going to see that there's a change, right? So we have this. This is not order now, ordered. We are going to remove this with style, and it's not going to be there, right? So, but what we want in the list is not just that. So we want in the list, we want HTML, right? HTML5. Then we want CSS3. That's according to the design now, right? We also want, okay, let me also show you this. If I just say list star, that's auto completion now, list star 3. So this is going to generate 3 list elements for me, right? So that's like shortcut. I'll also be showing you how to work with that. So let's say this is JavaScript, right? Let's also say we have Python here. And then say lastly, we have Node JS. So when you come back here, right, always inspect this. You can see now what list element looks like and the list item that goes in there, right? So we also look at the next, I think that's it with that section. That's it with that section. Don't forget to subscribe, right? If you love what you are seeing and you want to see some of my contents as I release them, don't forget to subscribe. Click on the notification button so you can be notified. And also don't forget to like the video. Thank you. Now let's go to the project section. You can see that we are organizing things into sections now, which makes it easier for us to work with. And whoever wants to work on the project too can easily look through it and improve on things. So we also have let's say we have the project section. We have the project, or let's say projects. Then we can just say end of projects. End of project. So in the project section, let's have the class defined, right? Let's have the class defined as okay, let's just say sections too, the generic section, right? With a class is an attribute for styling, right? Many things at the same time, don't forget. Class for project. Let's say project. Then we also want the title. So the section title is using heading 2, which is the next in importance, right? To heading 1. So we just say projects. Then so what we are now going to do here is that if you study what I have here, right? Because this is where when you are writing HTML, you don't just write it. You carefully look at the design and you structure your HTML, because if you don't do like that, styling will be difficult, right? So here I have the projects, right, which is a section. But under this section, we have different subsections. Like here I have project 1 with the title, the description, and the image, right? All under project. Then here I have another one, project 2, right? Title, description, image. Then the same thing here, project 3, title, description, image. So you are going to ensure that you structure your HTML to present that, right? Project 4 like that. So let's try and do that quickly. So for here, in order to group things like this, I'm going to introduce the div, right? Which I've already explained. It's also a container, right? A generic container that is used for structuring items on the page, right? It does not add any style or any other thing, visual effect to whatever you are working on. So usually it's just like a container, a default container, a generic container for holding items, and it can be styled also. So I'm going to have a div here, and this one is going to represent okay, let's just say this one is projects, the class is projects. So here I will have a class of a single project, right? So this is going to be project. So here projects, but the class here is project, right? And the advantage with class once again is that you can style it once and it will apply to everywhere where the class is used. So under this project, the first thing we have here is let's have the heading, and that will be heading 3. You see now that I'm not using heading 2 because in terms of importance now, heading 2 is for the section. Heading 3 is now a sub, right? Like for subsections or subsections under each section. So heading 3 now we just say project 1, right? Then can now say online portfolio. Let me just copy this so that it can be faster. Yeah, so here can just say this. All right, let's just reuse the content also. So we have that. That's heading 3, right? The next thing we want there is the paragraph. Here, you can see that we have this paragraph text here. So, and when you see this, I know this is paragraph because there's no quotation around it. It's just going to be paragraph. And that's how you identify these things, right? So, here we just say paragraph and you put the content inside a paragraph. So I have a formatter installed. Again, let me quickly introduce you to the formatter I'm using so that if your stuff is not formatted this way and neat, right, you can have that coming. So you can just come to extensions, right? Search for prettier. So you're going to see the live prettier. No, not the here. This one, this particular one with this badge. So make sure you install it. Once you have installed it, right, then come to this G icon. Come to this G icon. Click on it. Once you click on it, come to settings. Click on settings, right? Once you come to settings, here just type format. Just type format. Before you finish it, just type FOR. So you see some options here. Format on paste. So if you want to use this, that means every time you paste something, it's going to format it. So, but what I'm using is format on save, so that whenever I save my work, right, it formats it. If you want it to format, if you want it to be auto, you can also set it. But this is what I use. This is what I'm using. You can use that. You can see that it's check mark. So once you have that, anytime you save your work, it's going to format it for you and it's going to be clean like you are seeing it now. So that's it with that side. So now the next thing is, what's the next thing we need to work on? This section, this image, right? You can see this image. So you need to bring in this image, right? The element for that, again, you should know it already, is img, right? For bringing in image, img. So the img is self-closing, and you are going to need to supply an attribute to it, src, right? Without that attribute, it will not work. So if I save this now, right, you won't see anything, right? You can see that nothing is showing here. So until you then provide a link. So we also provide an alternate text, right, for screen readers. Here we can just say project. Okay, we can just put this here so that it can be useful for screen readers, online portfolio website. That's alternate text. So that if the image is not loading, can you see now? We see the alternate text. Then what we can also do is supply the image to this. So what I would do here is, usually when you are working, you should also create a folder, right, where you put images. So I'll just say assets, right? So my images are going to go in there so that I'll be able to point to them from here, right? So what I will do is I'll just supply you the image, and once I'm done here, this project will be I will supply the link to the GitHub repo, so you'll be able to have access to the assets too if you want to make use of them, or you can just create your own too and work with them. All right, so you will notice now that if you click here, you can see that I've supplied some of the assets that I'll be using right here. So you can also always supply yours, right? So all of them are there. They are images that I will use here. So that's it. In here, you can just come here and say, we want to use let me see what we used here. Okay, this image, right? I can just quickly look through and say, what's the image? Okay, not this. Okay, this one, which is port site PNG. So here I can just point to it and can just say dot slash, right? So you can see now. Now, let me quickly explain this. When you want to point to resources, right, or you want to reference resources, you use period, right? So when you use a period, it means you are saying that or period slash, it means you are saying you are looking for that asset in the current directory. This particular index.html, right? You can see this directory and it's right in the root folder. And that's why when I did dot slash, I could see the folders that are also in that directory, which is assets. At times you will need to step out, right, of the current folder. That's why you use double period. So you can see now that I'm stepping out of here now, and I can, if I do this, I'll see other things that are not part of this project at all, right? So, but what we need here is a single period. So assets, then what we want here is port side. So once I click on that, I should be able to see so this is what we call relative referencing, right? It's just relative. You are picking the location of the image, right, relative to the current directory you are working with. So you can see now that the image is here displayed, right? Nothing is styled here, and that is not our focus for now, right? Towards the end, we apply the style. That's it with that particular section, which is the first section. Then we have another section, right? We have another section after the first section. We have another. So we can just, the beautiful thing about this is that we can now copy this inner one and use it all over again. So after this one, we have another one, right? We can just edit this and say, okay, this is going to be so project 2, that's the title, right? And we can just have it here. Don't forget that I didn't change the style. So whatever style is applied here, we also apply to this since they are the same thing, right? So I think we don't really need much here. I can just copy this and say, let's have that here too. So all we need to now do is point to the right image again. Point to the right image. So the image here is that e-commerce image. So we can just come here and say, okay, we don't want port site, but we want the e-commerce image. So you can just say ecom data, right? So when you come here and say check, so we should have that. So you can see now that without wasting time, we have that section. And again, you can just work on the rest. So I'll do that quickly. So, all right, because of time, I've gone ahead to add the remaining 2 sections, right? It's still the same thing, right? So that we don't waste time here. You can see that it's still the same thing, right? This the third one and this is the fourth one. And if you come here, you can also see that already. Again, no style, but you know that the foundation has been laid properly, so styling is not going to be an issue. So once we have that section, I think we have one more section according to the task, which is the footer section, right? We want to have I think the contact us section. You have the contact, the contact and end of contact. Let's say end of contact. Yeah, I think it's the contact and end of contact. So let's quickly work on that too. So here we can just say it's going to be section 2. Okay, right, with class of contacts, so that we can use that for styling. Then we have H2, right, for section title. So this is going to be, or section heading now, this is going to be contact. Then the paragraph, right, I just use this. Let's just what's here quickly. So we have this, right? So, okay, I'm going to do something here, but let me just use the text first, right? So we have a paragraph and we have this. So inside this paragraph, I want some behavior, even though this is a paragraph, right? I want I want this email to be clickable. right? Look at this, say feel free to reach out to me. You can contact me via email at, right? And you want that to be clickable. So what we just do is to ensure that this email is wrapped, right, around anchor elements, which is what we use to link to wherever you want to point to a resource or to what we call whenever you want to link to another resource, right? You want to go to another resource, maybe Facebook, link to another, it might even be another page on the current application or website, right? So what you just need to do is wrap this in an anchor element. So you'll say A, right? So make sure that this content, this your email, goes into that. Then don't forget that I've already mentioned that by just doing this will not change the behavior of this. If you want it to work, you need to supply the actual attribute, which is href. And here we just want to say mail to, right? So the browser will understand that this is your mail, um, yeah, your mail at, let's say, gmail.com, right? So this just allows, the browser understands this and it allows people to actually send mail to you, right? Using this. When they click on that link, it will just give them opportunity to send mail to you. Then the other part is I have your LinkedIn profile, right? That your LinkedIn profile too. We want to wrap it in anchor elements, right? So here we can just say anchor element, your LinkedIn profile, so that it can be clicked on. Then we need to provide the href. So the href is just going to be whatever your LinkedIn profile is, right? I'll say https / your LinkedIn profile, right? So let's just have it like that. So when you get back to the page, you should see all that, right? So you should see all that. So you can see here now, feel free to reach and your email, you can click on this, right? Mail to, then your LinkedIn and all that. So let me just add one last section, which will be usually the footer, right? The footer section and or footer. This is just going to be basic, right? Nothing fancy. So here, the appropriate element to use here is, since there is a sectioning element, right? You can't say section here and be no, it's not wrong. The browser will not complain, but the appropriate thing to do is to use the footer element, because that's the footer sectioning element. And here you can have the copyrights and all that. And just put paragraph here, right? Where you say copyright. So let's just say ampersand copy. So that's a short code for copyright. So ampersand copy, I just say G, right? Gcom, right? I just say 2024. So that's just basic, nothing fancy. So once you come here, you should be able to see that footer section also, right? So you can see now I'm at Gcom 2024. So now this is good. We have laid our foundation well, and I believe you already see into some of the HTML elements that we have available to us. And again, don't forget to look in here to see some of the elements as I move on here, as I move on the HTML, introduction to HTML and all that. We'll still see some of these elements and I will point them out. But for now, I think we are on the right track. So let me just walk you through what I have here. We also have image multimedia elements, right? For instance, we've used image in our case. You can also use audio to embed audio sounds. You can also use, we can also have map, we have track, we have video also for embedding videos, right? Those are image and multimedia elements. We also have embedded content element like iframe, picture, portal, and all that. Then we also have SVG and MathML elements. So this is when you want to use SVG now, right? We also have scripting like the scripts, the no scripts, and the canvas. So all these are valid HTML5 elements, and they have been arranged based on their functions. So demarcating edits, the list, or uh, INS, right? So we also have table elements. We have caption, we have column, we are still going to work on table. So you are going to use most of these elements. But it's okay you walk through this and know the different elements, different sections or functions we have, and the elements that are grouped under them. So we have button for forms now. We have form, we have input elements, we have button elements, we have label elements. We are going to use some of this when we start working on form elements. So we also have interactive elements. You see that most times people juggle over elements in 1 hour, but if you really want to know it, you can't do it in 1 hour, right? Yeah, you might just get started with it, but you should always still know that there's still a lot to learn, and you should focus on actually mastering that, so that when you are writing HTML, you can write it the right way. And some of the elements are already obsolete, so it's also good to see here and know what is obsolete and not use them again. So I think that's just it with this section, right? Okay, before I wrap up this, let me apply style to this, right? So the thing is, I will just bring in the style since we have not done styling, right? I'll just bring in the style and try to explain what it's doing. But eventually, once I release my CSS video, right, you'll be able to understand what style is all about and all that. And that will surely not be long from now, right? So yeah, this is the style. I've brought in the style, and these are just default. Let me just run through them, right? So usually when you want to style an element on the page, you select it, right? You have to target the element and select it. So first, what I'm targeting here, this one is targeting the body element, and it's actually using the tag name. So there are different ways to target element. You can use the tag name. You can use the a class name, right? You can use ID. So for some of them, I actually use class name. For other ones, I just use their tag name. So we have the body tag name, which is actually targeting the body. And you can see that I have the body here, right? You can see that the body element is here. So I just want to ensure, and that is, of course, if you look at the design that I have here, you can see that everything is centered here. So you can see that everything here is centered, right? Everything here is centered. So that's based off what the CSS that I have here. So you can see that the font family here, I'm setting the areas and serif. For all these will be clear to use by the time I'm doing this CSS. But if you can still capture what I'm saying, it should be clear to you. So font family, we should all know already about font family if you are used to Word and using a Word document. Line height, margin, padding, background color. CSS is another thing entirely. So putting everything in one video, right? Trying to explain the detail in one video will just make it too long. Our focus here is not styling, but appropriate use of HTML elements and all that. So we also have the sections. I have multiple sections on the page, if you remember. So I'm also targeting that. Now saying the max width for the section should be 800 pixel. Margin auto. This is actually where I center all the sections, and you can see that it's already applied, right? I centered all the sections. Okay, this was not there already. I just added that myself, but you can see that the sections are centered, and they also have shadows, right? All this will come in. Just keep following me, right? By the time that's coming from here, by the time I'm done with the CSS class, you will be able to apply all these properties, right? Then we also have the headings, right? I change the color of the heading, the text color, then added border bottom, right? And that's where you have this. You will see that each heading is having this, right? That's where that is coming from. Then we also have the paragraphs. I reduced the font size, right? The font size is 16 pixel. And also I gave it a different color. So you see that the paragraph is having different color, right? Then I also have this way of selecting is called this is what we call tag selectors, right? Paragraph is an element tag, issue is an element tag, and all that. Then the UL, this is where you see that initially the list element was having bullets, right? But this is where I removed it. List type of none, padding of 0, margin of 0. Then list elements. Also, you can see that I start the list element to have background color of blue, right? And that's why you can see this, right? Background color of blue. Then I change the font size. Even decorated the card also to look neat like this, right? So then we have the anchor elements also styled differently. So when you hover on some of the text, the color also change, right? That's on over. Let me see where I have that. That's anchor element. If you come here and over, so you can see that the color change, right? When I hover. So that is why you have that description. Again, that's not the focus, but I just want this to look neat. That's why I had to apply the CSS, right? And for those that can capture what I already mean, right? That you can also run with that. So, okay, yeah, project image. I think I didn't use this, right? So let me try and see. Project image, that's the class where we are dealing with projects. Okay, yeah, I remember. So this should be in a div, right? Just so that we can have control over the image, because the image can be big and it can actually grow bigger than its size. So just a class of project image. So that will allow me to limit the container of the image. So the div there will be the container of the image, and the image will just ensure that the image does not grow outside its container. I think I missed out something there. So we cut this and place it in here. Right. So that's that. Then I can just repeat the same thing for other places. Here too, I have that here. Right. Can just change this to this. So that's the advantage of class, right? If you don't take anything, see, at least I use one method of styling, which is using a class. And you can see that I only styled once and it's applying to every other places where I have that, right? We'll still look at all those things in detail. Here we have also, let me just quickly replace these things. All right, then the last one. So if you actually walk through this as I'm doing it, right, you would have picked up a lot of things, and that's how to start, right? That's how to start, and you just keep on learning, try to build something different from what I've done here, right? And in the process, you master all these things. So I think that's it. If I come here and check again, I think everything is in line now, right? The images too are in line. So I didn't style the paragraph, so let me quickly do that. The footer section, so I can just say the footer section. I will just use the tag name footer, right? I can just say display here. I just say display of flex. So justify content to the center. I can just say align items to the center, right? That will ensure that everything is perfectly centered on the page. The content I mean now. So you can see now that we have this centered. The same thing I might want to do with the heading here. I don't even need this, right? Or let you center it anyway. So that's the only heading we have, which is heading 1. I just say heading 1 here. Heading 1. Right? I just want to say text align to the center. So and that should be it. Right? So you can see that. So we are done with this. Just walk through this. You should be proud that you're able to do this once you are done. Then all right, let me see what we have captured and what is left through my guide. Okay, we've looked at the HTML elements, the roots, we've done all these, right? Content sectioning, root sectioning, and we've seen how to use some of those elements, text content, example of text content elements, inline text semantic, examples of them, image and multimedia, right? I walked you through the library also, embed content, SVG, scripts. We've done all these table content. So some of them we'll still need to dive in. For instance, when we start working with table, we'll see some of these elements that falls in there. When we start working with JavaScript, we'll see some of the elements that comes in there, right? Then we also have form elements. So very soon we're doing handling forms and we use some of these elements also. So okay, yeah, this one I need to talk about this quickly. So we've talked about elements and we've seen different functions of the element and categories of elements and how to use them and all that. And for a matter of fact, we've just finished with building a simple portfolio website, right? So what we now need to do is we need to know that we have elements are categorized as either inline or block element. This understanding is very, very important, especially when it comes to styling, because if you don't have this understanding, styling might frustrate you, right? But when you know the default behavior of an element, styling becomes easy. And anything you are doing here, you can't do guesswork. You have to act based on an understanding, right? That is when your work will be easy and fast. You can bring your own mind and all that and tweak things. So elements are categorized as either inline or block elements, right? And their behavior in terms of layout and display varies accordingly. So you need to understand that every element will have a default display behavior, right? For instance, the div. For instance, some of the elements we use here, heading 2, right, is always going to be a block element. So block elements take full width of their container. Nothing else can sit beside it, right? So you already know that that's the behavior of a block element. Paragraph to a block element. UL, they are block element. Nothing can sit next to them. And if you want to confirm that, like this H2 now, or let's say this heading 1, if I give it a background color of this, right? So, okay, don't let me save it yet. You'll notice that this looks like this is what I'm targeting. It looks like everything starts here and ends here. But because I know that this heading 1 is a block element, I know it's going to span from here to here. Nothing sits next to it. It spans the whole width of the document, right? So how do I know? If I save that now to confirm that, if I save that and come in, can you see? That's because it's a block element. So the text is just in this area, but it takes the entire way. So that's what I mean by block element. Paragraphs are block element. So understanding this makes your life easy. And of course, you can change the default position of every element through the use of CSS. We are also going to see that. But just know that elements generally are categorized into two, right? Inline elements and block element. I think that's what I wanted to capture here. And here's an example also. You can see block every element. Paragraph, for instance, they're taking the full weight. The one taking the full weight. Div is also a block element taking the full weight. Nothing sits next to them. But inline elements, right? They just take the elements that whose width are just assume the width or assume the width of the content. So this is length. That's the entire width of the content, and that is the area that the element is going to take. So that makes it easy for any other element to actually sit next to it. So link element, that is anchor elements, are inline element. Span elements are inline element. Image elements are inline elements. We have other inline elements that we have, like you can see the behavior here. If you scroll down, where I have a paragraph. So this would not have been possible if this were to be a block element. Even if it's going to be possible, I will need to now use CSS to change that behavior, right? But the default behavior of this is inline, and that's why the text can actually wrap around it, and it can still stay within a paragraph like this without throwing everything down. Because if you see, that's what I have it, right? Anchor element is inline here inside the paragraph, and every other text is sit next to it. So I think that's just what I need to explain about inline element, right? I will buttress on it as we move on. So block elements are those that typically starts on new line and take off full width available. So they create blocks of content. Some common block elements include, I've mentioned already, the paragraph, heading 1 to 6, UL, ordinary, another list, other list element. They are all these are block element, table row, table definite. All these are block elements, right? Inline elements, they do not start on new line and only takes as much width as necessary. So examples, again, I mentioned span is just a generic container that does not have any semantic meaning. We have anchor elements, which is used for creating hyperlinks. We have all these elements are actually inline elements. So as you are learning the elements, you should also be thinking in your mind, is this element a block element? Is this element an inline element? what's the default behavior of a block element and inline element, right? That's the way to learn these things, and you're on the right track. So we've taken on this project, which is to create a simple portfolio web page that includes the About Me section, skills, project, and contact. We've done this, and that just sum up actually what we need to do. In the next section, we'll be looking at forms and form elements and how to work with form. There are so many, we have exciting moments ahead of us. So keep working hard, and don't forget to subscribe, right? If you love what you are seeing and you want to see some of my contents as I release them, don't forget to subscribe. Click on the notification button so you can be notified. And also don't forget to like the video. Thank you, and see you in the next section.